The warning lights painted the bridge of the human frigate Defiant in angry red. Commander Marcus Chen gripped his captain's chair as another explosion shook the dying ship. Sparks flew from damaged control panels. The smell of burning circuits filled the air. "Hull breach on Deck 7, Lieutenant Torres called out from her station. Her voice stayed steady even though blood ran down her face from a head wound. "Emergency force fields are holding, but barely." Marcus looked at the tactical display. 23 Void Swarm Hunter ships surrounded them like wolves around wounded prey. Their black hulls absorbed light, making them look like holes cut into space itself. Each one carried enough firepower to destroy a city. "How long until we reach the nebula's edge?" Marcus asked. 18 minutes at current speed, the navigation officer replied. "But sir, the quantum drive is failing. We might not make it." Marcus turned to look at Princess Lorelei. She sat in the corner of the bridge, her pale blue skin glowing softly in the emergency lighting. Her large silver eyes watched everything with calm interest. She did not look afraid, even though death hunted them through space. The princess belonged to the Etherian Empire, a civilization that ruled over 1,000 worlds. Her people had technology that humans could barely understand. They could speak to each other with their minds. They lived for hundreds of years. They built ships that could fold space like paper, but right now none of that mattered. The Void Swarm had destroyed her homeworld 3 days ago. Marcus had been there on a diplomatic mission when the attack came. He grabbed the princess and ran for his ship while her capital city burned around them. "Commander?" Princess Lorelei spoke in her musical voice. The translation device on her collar changed her words into English. "You should leave me behind. Your ship is dying because of me. Your crew will die because of me." Marcus looked at her with surprise. "We don't leave people behind, Your Highness. That's not how humans work, but I am not human," she said. "Why do you risk so much for someone who is not your own kind?" Before Marcus could answer, another blast hit the ship. This one was stronger. The lights went out for 3 seconds before emergency power kicked in. "Sir, they're charging weapons for a final attack," Torres said. "All 23 ships. They want to make sure we don't escape." Marcus studied the tactical display. The swarm ships were moving into position for a kill shot. His ship had almost no weapons left. The shields were nearly gone. In 2 minutes, the Defiant would be space dust. But there was one option left. "Torres, evacuate everyone to the escape pods," Marcus ordered. "Do it now." "Sir, there's only one pod left that works," she replied. The others were destroyed in the attacks. Marcus felt his heart sink, but his face stayed calm. One pod meant one person could escape. He looked at his crew, 5 good people who had followed him into hell. Then he looked at the princess. The choice was easy. "Your Highness, you're taking that pod," he said. Princess Lorelei stood up. Her silver eyes seemed to glow brighter. "I will not run while others die for me." "Yes, you will," Marcus said firmly. "Torres, prep the pod for the princess. Everyone else, get to the quantum core. We're going to give her the best chance we can." As his crew moved to follow orders, Marcus walked over to the princess. She was tall for her kind, almost reaching his shoulder. Up close he could see the fear she was trying to hide. "Why?" she asked quietly. "Why do this for me?" Marcus thought about the question. He thought about his duty as a soldier. He thought about the alliance between humans and Etherians. He thought about the millions of people who would die if the swarm wasn't stopped. But mostly, he thought about the look in her eyes when he found her in the burning palace. She had been trying to save her servants instead of running. In that moment, he saw something that made her more than just an alien princess. He saw someone worth saving. "Because sometimes the best of us have to burn so the rest can see the stars," he said. Minutes later, Princess Lorelei sat in the escape pod. Through the small window, she could see the Defiant growing smaller as the pod flew toward the nebula's edge. The swarm ships ignored her. They focused all their attention on the damaged frigate. She watched Marcus on the pod's communication screen. He sat alone on his bridge now. His crew was in the quantum core room, working to overload the reactor. His face looked calm, almost peaceful. "Commander," she said through the communication link, "I do not understand humans. Your people are so different from mine." Marcus smiled. "Maybe that's not a bad thing, Your Highness." On the screen, she could see warning lights flashing faster. The swarm ships were closing in. Marcus's hands moved over his controls, targeting every enemy ship he could reach. "Princess," he said, looking directly at the camera, "when you get home, tell your people what happened here. Tell them that humans keep their promises. Tell them that we don't give up on our friends. The communication link went dead. Princess Lyrelay pressed her face against the pod's window. She watched the Defiant turn toward the largest group of swarm ships. She watched the human frigate's engines glow brighter than stars as Marcus pushed them past their limits. Then the quantum core exploded. The blast lit up space like a newborn sun. The wave of energy and fire caught the swarm ships before they could run. One by one, they vanished in the expanding ball of light. 37 ships died in that moment. When the light faded, nothing remained but glowing gas and metal fragments scattered across space. The Defiant was gone. Commander Marcus Chen was gone. His crew was gone. But Princess Lyrelay was alive. The explosion had created a barrier of quantum fire that the remaining swarm ships could not cross. The princess's pod flew safely through the nebula and reached the Etherian outpost at the edge of civilized space. As rescue ships came to collect her, Princess Lyrelay stared back at the glowing cloud that marked Marcus's final battle. She thought about his last words. She thought about the way he smiled when he made his choice. Her people had technology that could do amazing things. They could build wonders that lasted for thousands of years. They could speak across vast distances with their minds. They could predict the future and bend space to their will. But they had forgotten how to do what Marcus Chen did. They had forgotten how to burn bright so others could live. Princess Lyrelay made a promise to herself as the rescue ships carried her home. She would tell her people about the human commander who gave everything for someone he barely knew. She would make sure his sacrifice meant something. She would make sure the galaxy remembered Marcus Chen and what it meant to be human. The princess did not know that her mother, Queen Saraleth, was already planning something that would change both their lives forever. She did not know that Marcus's story was just beginning. Sometimes the best of us have to burn so the rest can see the stars, but sometimes even burned stars can be reborn. Marcus Chen woke up slowly. His first thought was that he should be dead. His second thought was that the ceiling above him looked like it was made of crystal and starlight. He tried to sit up, but his body felt heavy and strange. Tubes and wires connected him to machines that hummed with soft music. The room around him glowed with gentle blue light that seemed to come from the walls themselves. "He awakens," a voice said in a language Marcus had never heard before. The words sounded like wind chimes and flowing water. A figure stepped into his view. It was an Etherian, but not Princess Lyrelay. This one was taller and older. Her skin had the same pale blue color, but it seemed to shimmer like moonlight on water. Her silver hair moved as if it floated underwater. Her eyes held the wisdom of centuries. "Who are you?" Marcus asked. His voice sounded rough and weak. The figure touched a device on her wrist. When she spoke again, her words came out in English. "I am Queen Saraleth, ruler of the Etherian Empire. You are in my palace on Lumina Prima, our capital world." Marcus tried to process this information. "That's impossible. I died in space. The quantum core explosion should have killed me instantly." Queen Saraleth moved closer. "You did die, Commander Marcus Chen. But death is not always permanent for those who serve a great purpose." She gestured to the crystal chamber around him. "For 6 months, my best biotechnicians worked to bring you back. We found traces of your DNA and fabric from your uniform. We used quantum reconstruction to rebuild your body molecule by molecule." Marcus stared at her in shock. 6 months? Why would you do that? The cost must have been enormous. "The equivalent of terraforming a small planet," the Queen agreed. "But some debts cannot be paid with money or words. My daughter told me what you did, how you sacrificed everything to save her life." The Queen touched another device, and the air above them filled with images. Marcus saw the rescue of Princess Lyrelay. He saw her arriving at the Etherian outpost. He saw her speaking to officials about what happened on the Defiant. "She spoke of honor," Queen Saraleth continued. "She said you showed her what it means to give everything for someone else. This concept fascinated me. I was just doing my duty," Marcus said quietly. "No." The Queen's voice grew sharp. "Duty is following orders because you must. What you did was different. You chose to die for someone you barely knew, someone who was not even your own species. You gained nothing from this choice except death." The Queen waved her hand and new images appeared in the air. These showed human soldiers throughout history. They showed battles and sacrifices. They showed people giving their lives for others. "I have spent 6 months studying your people," she said. "Your military history, your philosophy, your culture. I wanted to understand how beings with such short lives and simple technology could demonstrate such pure honor." Marcus felt uncomfortable under her intense gaze. Your Highness, humans aren't special. We just do what we think is right. That, Queen Sarilith said, is exactly what makes you special. My people have forgotten how to do things simply because they are right. We calculate costs and benefits. We make decisions based on logic and advantage. We have lived so long and grown so powerful that we no longer understand sacrifice. She touched the crystal wall and it became transparent. Through it, Marcus could see a city that defied description. Towers of light stretched toward the sky. Ships moved through the air without engines. Gardens floated in midair, tended by beings of pure energy. This is what we have built in our thousands of years of civilization, the Queen said, beauty beyond imagination. Technology that seems like magic. But we have lost something in the process. We have lost the ability to burn bright for others. Marcus tried to sit up again. This time the machines helped him. What do you want from me? I want to understand you, Queen Sarilith said simply. I want to know how a primitive human can teach my advanced people something we have forgotten. Before Marcus could respond, another voice spoke from the doorway. Mother, you are scaring him. Princess Lirelei entered the room. She looked different than Marcus remembered. Her silver eyes seemed brighter, more alive. She carried herself with new confidence. Your Highness, Marcus said, attempting to bow from his sitting position. I'm glad you made it home safely. Because of you, she replied. She came to stand beside his bed. I have thought about your sacrifice every day for 6 months. I have tried to understand why you did it. And what did you decide? Marcus asked. That I know nothing about honor, Lirelei said. My people speak of honor constantly. We have elaborate codes and ceremonies, but it is all for show. True honor, the kind you showed, is about action, not words. Queen Sarilith nodded. My daughter has changed since that day. She questions our ways now. She asks difficult questions about why we hide behind our technology instead of fighting for what matters. She is not the only one, the princess added. Word of what you did has spread. Young nobles ask questions about human military traditions. They want to know what makes your soldiers so willing to die for others. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. You're making too much of this. What I did wasn't unique. Any good soldier would have made the same choice. But that is the point, Queen Sarilith said urgently. You say any good soldier as if such people are common. In my empire, we have billions of citizens, but I could count on my fingers those who would make your choice. The Queen moved to another control panel. The images in the air changed again. Now they showed Etherian military forces. The soldiers looked magnificent in their crystal armor and energy weapons, but Marcus noticed something strange about their movements. Our military is ceremonial now, the Queen explained. We fight our battles with automated ships and robot armies. Our people stay safe while machines do the dying. We have not had a soldier choose death over retreat in over 200 years. That sounds like good planning to me, Marcus said. Does it? Princess Lirelei asked. When the Void Swarm attacked my world, our automated defenses failed. Our robot armies were destroyed. Our people ran instead of fighting because they had forgotten how. Millions died because no one was willing to make your choice. The weight of her words settled on Marcus. He began to understand why they had brought him back. You want me to teach your people how to fight, he said. No, Queen Sarilith corrected. I want you to teach them how to sacrifice, how to put others before themselves, how to burn bright so the rest can see the stars. She touched another control, and the crystal chamber began to open. But first you must recover your strength. You will be a guest in my palace for as long as you need. My daughter will show you our world and our ways. As the machines disconnected from his body, Marcus felt strength returning to his limbs, but he also felt trapped. These people had saved him, but they wanted something from him that he wasn't sure he could give. What if I refuse? He asked. Queen Sarilith smiled, but there was sadness in her eyes. Then you are free to leave whenever you wish. I will not force a teacher who does not want to teach. But Marcus Chen, consider this. The Void Swarm still threatens the galaxy. They grow stronger while civilized worlds grow weaker. If we do not learn to fight like you fight, everyone will die like my home world died. Princess Lirelei stepped forward. I have seen what happens when no one is willing to make the hard choice. I will not let that happen again. Marcus looked at both of them, the Queen with her ancient wisdom and desperate hope, the princess with her new determination and barely controlled anger at her people's weakness. He thought about his crew, who died with him on the Defiant. He thought about the soldiers throughout human history who made similar choices. He thought about the promise he made to burn bright so others could see the stars. Maybe that burning wasn't finished yet. "All right," he said quietly. "I'll stay for a while. But I do this my way, not yours." Queen Sarilith bowed deeply. "Thank you, Marcus Chen. You may have just saved my empire." Marcus hoped she was right. But deep down, he worried that he had just agreed to something that would change him forever. The Grand Hall of Lumina Prima could hold 50,000 beings. Today, every seat was filled. Representatives from across the Etherean Empire had come to witness the ceremony honoring Marcus Chen. Holographic projections carried the event to millions more worlds. Throughout known space, Marcus stood on a platform of pure crystal, wearing formal human military dress uniform that the Ethereans had somehow recreated perfectly. He felt uncomfortable with all the attention. Around him, nobles in flowing robes whispered in their musical language. Their translator devices turned their words into a buzzing background noise. Princess Lyrelai sat in the front row, wearing a crown of starlight. She had tried to prepare him for this ceremony, but Marcus still felt lost. The Etherean concept of honor debt was complex and strange. "The humans have a saying," Queen Sarilith said, her voice carrying clearly through the vast hall. "They say that some debts cannot be repaid, only honored. Today we honor such a debt." The queen stood at the center of the platform, her royal robes shifting colors like aurora in the sky. Behind her, holographic displays showed the final battle of the Defiant. Marcus watched himself die again as the quantum core exploded. "Commander Marcus Chen gave his life so that Princess Lyrelai might live," the queen continued. "In doing so, he demonstrated honor beyond calculation. His sacrifice was pure, asking for nothing and expecting no reward." Applause filled the hall, but Marcus noticed that some of the nobles looked uncomfortable. He had learned enough about Etherean politics to know that many disapproved of honoring a primitive human so highly. "For 6 months, I have studied human culture," Queen Sarilith said. "I have read their military histories and their philosophies. I have tried to understand how they create soldiers willing to die for strangers." The queen gestured, and new images appeared above the crowd. They showed human battles throughout history. Soldiers charging into impossible odds, people choosing death over surrender, heroes saving others at the cost of their own lives. "What I found amazed me," the queen said. "Humans do not see such sacrifice as extraordinary. They see it as duty. They train their children to value others above themselves. They create cultures that honor those who give everything and gain nothing." Some nobles in the audience began to shift uncomfortably. Marcus realized that the queen was not just praising him. She was criticizing her own people. "We have forgotten this wisdom," Queen Sarilith continued. "We have grown so advanced that we believe technology can replace courage. We have lived so long that we think safety matters more than honor. We have become so civilized that we have forgotten how to fight for what we love." The hall grew quiet. Marcus could feel tension building in the crowd. "Therefore," the queen said, her voice rising, "normal honors are not enough for Marcus Chen. A ceremony and a medal cannot repay what he has done. Only one response is adequate for such pure sacrifice." Queen Sarilith raised her hand and ancient symbols appeared in the air around her. Marcus had seen similar symbols in the palace library. They were very old, from the early days of the Etherean Empire. "I invoke the right of valor claim," the queen declared. The hall exploded in shocked voices. Nobles stood and shouted in their musical language. Some sounded angry, others fearful. Marcus did not understand the words, but he knew something big had just happened. Princess Lyrelai was on her feet, staring at her mother in shock. "Mother, you cannot," she said in English so Marcus could understand. "I can and I do," Queen Sarilith replied firmly. "The right of valor claim has not been invoked in 1,000 years, but the law still stands. When someone demonstrates valor so pure that it transcends normal understanding, they may be claimed by the crown." She turned to face Marcus directly. "Marcus Chen, by the ancient laws of my people, I declare you mine. Bound to my service and protection for life, no harm may come to you. No order may supersede my command over your fate. You belong to me now." Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. "Your Majesty, I don't understand." "What does this mean?" "It means you are no longer a free man," Queen Sarilith said. "You are my most treasured possession, more valuable than worlds, more precious than entire star fleets. I own you completely." The crowd roared with mixed reactions. Some nobles cheered, caught up in the ancient ceremony. Others looked horrified at this break with modern customs. Marcus heard several languages being translated at once, creating a wall of confused noise. "I refuse," Marcus said loudly enough for his voice to carry. The hall went silent. "You cannot refuse," Queen Saraleth replied. "The law is absolute. Your sacrifice was so great that only total commitment can match it. I studied your military traditions, Marcus Chen. I know that soldiers give their lives to their cause completely. Now I give my complete devotion to preserving your life." Marcus felt trapped. Around him, 10,000 faces stared with interest, fear, or anger. "Your Majesty, I was just doing my duty. I don't deserve this." "Duty without personal gain is the rarest treasure in the universe," the Queen said. "You risked everything for my daughter because it was right, not because you hoped for reward. Such purity of purpose must be protected and preserved." Princess Lyrily stepped forward. "Mother, this is wrong. You cannot chain someone for being honorable." "I am not chaining him," Queen Saraleth replied. "I am ensuring that the galaxy never loses what he represents. Marcus Chen is the last of something precious. Through him, perhaps we can rediscover what we have lost." From the crowd, an elderly noble stood up. His translator turned his words into heavily accented English. "Your Majesty, this human is not one of us. He cannot be claimed under our ancient laws." "The laws say nothing about species," the Queen replied coldly. "They speak only of valor and sacrifice. Marcus Chen has demonstrated both beyond question." Another noble rose. "This breaks with 1,000 years of precedent. The right of valor claim was meant for Etherians, not aliens. Then perhaps it is time we expanded our definition of who deserves our highest honors," Princess Lyrily said sharply. She turned to address the crowd directly. "This human did something none of us have done in centuries. He chose certain death to save someone he barely knew. How many of you would make that choice?" The hall remained silent. "How many of you," the princess continued, "have ever risked anything real for someone else? We speak constantly of honor and duty, but they are just words to us. To Marcus Chen, they are worth dying for." Queen Saraleth nodded approvingly at her daughter. "The princess speaks truth. We have become a people who value safety over courage, longevity over sacrifice. Perhaps learning from a human will remind us what we used to be." Marcus looked around the vast hall. He saw faces filled with curiosity, fear, anger, and hope. He realized that this was about more than just him. The Queen was trying to change her entire civilization, and she was using him as the catalyst. "What if I don't want to be your symbol?" Marcus asked. "Then you will be an unwilling one," Queen Saraleth replied sadly. "But you will be a living one. The alternative is to let what you represent die with you." From somewhere in the crowd, a young voice called out in English, "Teach us." Other voices joined in. "Show us how to be brave. Help us remember honor." Marcus realized that many in the crowd were young Etherians who had heard stories of his sacrifice. They looked at him with hope and admiration that made him deeply uncomfortable. "Your Majesty," he said carefully, "if I accept this, what would you want from me?" "Everything," Queen Saraleth replied. "Your knowledge, your example, your way of thinking. I want you to teach my people what it means to put others first. I want you to show them that some things are worth dying for." Marcus thought about his crew who died with him on the Defiant. He thought about the millions who had died when Princess Lyrily's world fell. He thought about the void swarm still threatening the galaxy. Maybe the Queen was right. Maybe he could help these people remember how to fight for something bigger than themselves. "All right," he said finally. "I accept your claim. But I have conditions." Queen Saraleth smiled. "Name them. I do this my way. I choose what to teach and how to teach it. And if your people don't want to learn, I stop trying." "Agreed," the Queen said immediately. As the crowd erupted in cheers and arguments, Marcus wondered what he had just gotten himself into. He looked at Princess Lyrily, who was watching him with something that might have been pride. For better or worse, his new life was beginning. 3 months after the declaration ceremony, Marcus Chen felt like a prisoner in the most beautiful cage ever built. Every door he approached opened for him. Every request he made was granted instantly. Every need was anticipated before he could voice it. He could not take a single step without 6 royal guards following at a respectful distance. When he asked them to leave him alone, they politely explained that Queen Saraleth's orders were absolute. His protection was their sacred duty. "This is insane," Marcus said to Princess Lyrily as they walked through the palace gardens. The plants around them glowed with soft light and sang quiet melodies when touched by the wind. I'm not a person anymore. I'm a living artifact in your mother's collection. Princess Lirelai looked troubled. She had changed much in the past months. Her royal duties now included studying human military philosophy. She spent hours each day reading about Earth's wars and the soldiers who fought them. My mother believes she is protecting something precious, Lirelai said carefully. Your mother is suffocating what she claims to protect, Marcus replied. How can I teach your people about sacrifice and courage when I'm not allowed to take any risks myself? Behind them, the 6 guards maintained their perfect distance. They wore crystal armor that could deflect energy weapons and carried shields that could stop explosions. Marcus had tested their dedication by trying to climb a dangerous cliff path during one of his walks. They had surrounded him instantly, their worried faces showing real fear for his safety. The young nobles are asking about you constantly, Lirelai said. They want to know when you will begin training them. Marcus sighed. How can I train soldiers when I'm not allowed to be a soldier? Your mother's guards won't even let me hold a weapon. This was true. Marcus had requested access to the palace armory to demonstrate human fighting techniques. The guards had politely but firmly refused. Queen Serelith's orders were clear. Nothing that might harm Marcus was permitted near him. As they walked, a group of young Etherians approached. They bowed respectfully when they saw Princess Lirelai, but their eyes stayed fixed on Marcus. Commander Chen, one of them said in careful English, we have been reading about human military history. We want to understand how your people create such dedicated warriors. Marcus stopped walking. The young Etherian who spoke looked barely adult by his species standards. His pale blue skin had the smooth quality of youth, and his silver eyes held eager curiosity. What's your name? Marcus asked. I am Kalthus, the young man replied. My family oversees mining operations in the outer systems. But I want to join the military and learn to fight like humans fight. Why? Marcus asked. Kalthus straightened. Because when the Void Swarm comes again, I want to stand and fight instead of running away. I want to protect people who cannot protect themselves. The other young Etherians nodded agreement. Marcus counted 12 of them, all looking at him with the same hopeful expression. Your current military training is inadequate? Marcus asked. We train with energy weapons and tactical simulations, a young woman said. But everything focuses on minimum risk and maximum efficiency. We never learn to fight when victory requires sacrifice. Marcus felt his frustration growing. These young people wanted exactly what he could teach them, but Queen Serelith's protection made it impossible. I cannot help you, he said finally. I am not permitted to put myself at risk, and I cannot teach courage to others if I am not allowed to show it myself. The young Etherians looked disappointed, but not surprised. Word had spread through the palace that the famous human hero was essentially under house arrest. That evening, Marcus requested a private meeting with Queen Serelith. She received him in her personal study, a room filled with holographic books and floating displays showing data from across the empire. You seem troubled. Marcus Chen, she said without looking up from her reading. Your Majesty, this arrangement isn't working, Marcus said bluntly. You want me to teach your people about sacrifice and courage, but your guards won't let me demonstrate either one. Queen Serelith finally looked at him. You are too valuable to risk. If you died training my people, I would lose everything I hope to preserve. But you're not preserving it, Marcus argued. You're killing it with kindness. Courage cannot exist without risk. Honor cannot exist without the possibility of failure. I will not lose you again, the Queen said firmly. I spent 6 months and enormous resources bringing you back. I will not watch you throw your life away on some meaningless gesture. Marcus felt his temper rise. Everything I've ever done that mattered was a meaningless gesture to someone else. That's what courage is, Your Majesty, doing what's right even when others think it's foolish. Before Queen Serelith could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the palace. Both of them looked up as warning lights bathed the room in red. Princess Lirelai burst through the door. Mother, we have reports of Void Swarm attacks in the outer systems. 3 colonies are under assault. Queen Serelith immediately activated her communication systems. Holographic displays showed tactical information from across the Empire. The attacks were coordinated and brutal. Deploy the automated defense fleets, she ordered. Begin evacuation of civilian populations. All military units are to maintain safe distances and avoid direct engagement. Marcus watched in growing horror as the reports came in. Millions of people were running for their lives while robotic ships fought the swarm attackers. The automated defenses were losing badly. Your Majesty, he said urgently, your people need leaders who will fight alongside them, not machines that follow programs. My people need to stay alive, Queen Saralith replied curtly. We cannot afford to lose experienced commanders in hopeless battles. Then you'll lose everything slowly instead of quickly, Marcus said. More reports came in. The swarm had broken through the outer defenses. Refugee convoys were under attack. The automated ships were being destroyed faster than they could be replaced. Marcus made his decision. While Queen Saralith focused on coordinating the evacuation, he slipped out of the study. Princess Lyrelei saw him leave but said nothing. In the corridor, his guards immediately fell into formation around him. I need to get to the military hangar, Marcus told them. I am sorry, Commander Chen, the lead guard said politely. The Queen has not authorized you to visit military facilities. Marcus kept walking. There are people dying out there who need help. That is unfortunate, the guard replied. But our orders are clear. Your safety takes priority over all other considerations. Marcus stopped walking and turned to face the 6 guards. They were good people, he knew. They truly believed they were doing their duty by protecting him. What are your names? He asked. The guards looked surprised by the question. Their leader answered first. I am Captain Veltar. The others gave their names as well. Marcus memorized each one. Captain Veltar, he said. What did you think of my story when you first heard it? I thought it was the most honorable thing I had ever heard of, Veltar replied honestly. And if you saw someone you cared about under attack, what would you do? I would fight to protect them, Veltar said immediately. Even if you might die? Especially then, Marcus nodded. Then you understand why I have to go. Before the guards could react, Marcus sprinted toward the hangar bay. His months of comfortable living had not made him soft. He still moved like the soldier he was. The guards chased him, but they were hampered by their orders. They could not harm him even to stop him. Marcus reached the hangar and sealed the door behind him. Inside, rows of Etherean fighter craft gleamed under the overhead lights. Marcus had studied their controls during his time in the palace. The technology was advanced, but the basic principles were similar to human ships. He chose a fast interceptor and began the startup sequence. Behind him, the guards were cutting through the door with emergency tools. Princess Lyrelei's voice came through the ship's communication system. Marcus, don't do this. My mother will never forgive you if you die. Then I better not die, Marcus replied. He engaged the engines and launched through the hangar's atmospheric barrier. Space around Lumina Prima was filled with ships. Most were evacuation transports carrying refugees from the attacked colonies. But Marcus could see the distant flashes of battle where the automated fleets fought the Void Swarm. He set course for the nearest engagement and pushed the fighter to maximum speed. The battle was worse than the reports had indicated. Swarm ships swarmed around a massive refugee convoy like angry insects. The automated defense ships fought with perfect coordination but no creativity. They followed their programming while the swarm adapted and overcame them. Marcus dove into the fight. His first target was a swarm hunter trying to break through to the refugee ships. Marcus hit it with everything his fighter carried, destroying it in a burst of dark energy. The other swarm ships immediately turned their attention to him. For the next 20 minutes, Marcus fought the kind of battle he had been born for. He used every trick human pilots had developed over centuries of warfare. He took risks no automated ship would take. He made choices based on instinct and courage rather than calculated odds. When it was over, the refugee convoy was safe. 15 swarm ships had been destroyed. Marcus's fighter was barely holding together. Its hull breached in 3 places and most systems. Marcus woke up in the same crystal healing chamber where his new life had begun 6 months ago. His body ached from radiation burns and impact injuries. The machines around him hummed their gentle songs as they repaired the damage from his unauthorized battle with the Void Swarm. But this time, he was not alone. Queen Saralith sat beside his bed, her face showing emotions Marcus had never seen before. She looked older somehow, as if the weight of leadership had finally caught up with her immortal features. You could have died, she said quietly in English. No translation device this time. She had been learning his language in secret. But I didn't, Marcus replied, and neither did the 2 million refugees in that convoy. That is not the point, Queen Saralith said, but her voice lacked its usual certainty. That is exactly the point, Your Majesty, Marcus said. He tried to sit up and the healing machines adjusted to help him. You wanted me to teach your people about courage and sacrifice, but I can't teach what I'm not allowed to show. The Queen was quiet for a long time. Through the crystal walls, Marcus could see the lights of Lumina Prima stretching to the horizon. Somewhere out there, he knew young Etherians were talking about the human who had defied their queen to save strangers. I have been thinking about our conversation before the attack, Queen Saralith said finally. You said I was killing what I claimed to protect. I did not understand then. And now I have watched recordings of your battle. I have seen what you accomplished that our automated fleets could not. And I have realized that I made a terrible mistake. The Queen stood and walked to the crystal wall. Her reflection looked back at her, pale and tired. When I brought you back from death, I thought I was preserving something precious, an example of perfect courage and honor. I wanted to study you, to learn from you, to somehow transfer your qualities to my people. She turned back to face him. But you cannot cage courage, can you? You cannot imprison honor and expect it to survive. Marcus nodded. Courage only exists when someone chooses to act despite danger. Honor only means something when it costs you something. You were trying to preserve the result while removing the cause. I see that now, Queen Saralith said. In trying to protect you completely, I destroyed the very thing that made you worth protecting. The door to the healing chamber opened, and Princess Lyrelai entered. She carried a data tablet and looked excited despite her obvious worry about Marcus's condition. Mother, you need to see the reports from across the Empire, she said in English. Word of Marcus's battle has spread everywhere. Queen Saralith took the tablet and read quickly. As she did, her expression changed from resignation to amazement. What is it? Marcus asked. Applications to join the military, Princess Lyrelai explained. In the 3 days since your battle, over 50,000 young Etherians have requested combat training. They all cite your example as their inspiration. She activated a holographic display showing images from across the Empire. Young Etherians were gathering in groups, discussing human military history. Some were attempting to create their own training programs based on what they had learned from human books and videos. More than that, Queen Saralith said, still reading the reports. Several senior military commanders have submitted new tactical doctrines based on human fighting methods. They want to train officers who can make creative decisions instead of just following programming. Marcus felt a mix of pride and concern. Are they doing this safely? I don't want people getting hurt trying to copy something they don't fully understand. Which is exactly why I need to make you an offer, Queen Saralith said. She set down the tablet and looked directly into Marcus's eyes. I want to release you from my claim. Marcus blinked in surprise. What? The right of valor claim was a mistake, the Queen said. I cannot honor what you represent by making you my prisoner. True courage cannot be owned or controlled. She began pacing the small chamber. But I still need your help. My people are inspired by what you did, but inspiration without guidance can be dangerous. They need someone to teach them properly. What are you asking? Marcus said carefully. I am asking you to choose freely what you once agreed to under compulsion, Queen Saralith replied. Accept a commission as an advisor to the Etherian military. Help us rebuild our forces around the principles you represent. Teach our people what it really means to fight for something greater than themselves. Princess Lyrelai stepped forward. I have also made a request to my mother. If you accept this position, I want to be assigned as your aide and student. Marcus looked at her in surprise. Your Highness, you're a princess. You have duties to your people. My duty is to learn what you have to teach, Lyrelai said firmly. I have spent months studying human military history, but reading about courage is not the same as learning from someone who lives it. Queen Saralith nodded approvingly. My daughter has changed much since your sacrifice saved her life. She questions our old ways and pushes for reforms. Having her work with you would benefit both your mission and her education. Marcus thought carefully about the offer. It would mean staying in the Etherian Empire probably for years. It would mean taking responsibility for shaping the military culture of an entire civilization. It would mean accepting the burden of living up to the legend they had made of him. But it would also mean freedom to do what he believed was right. Freedom to take risks when necessary. Freedom to show rather than just tell. If I accept, he said, I do this completely on my terms. No guards following me around. No restrictions on my activities. I train your people the way I think they need to be trained, even if it's dangerous. Agreed, Queen Saralith said immediately. And if your people decide they don't want to learn what I have to teach, I stop trying and go home. Also agreed. Marcus looked at Princess Lyreley. And you understand that if you're going to learn human military traditions, you'll have to accept human military discipline? No special treatment because you're royalty. Lyreley smiled. I would be insulted if you offered me special treatment. Marcus made his decision. All right. I accept. Queen Seralith's relief was visible. Thank you, Marcus Chen. You may have just saved my empire. We'll see, Marcus said. But first, I need to know what resources you're willing to commit to this. Real training requires real equipment, real weapons, and real risks. Whatever you need, the Queen replied. Over the next several hours, they planned Marcus's new role. He would have authority to completely redesign Etherian military training. He would choose his own students from volunteers across the Empire. He would have access to any facility or equipment he requested. Most importantly, he would be free to demonstrate the principles he taught, even if it meant putting himself in danger. 3 weeks later, the first class of volunteer Etherian military students gathered at a new training facility, built to Marcus's specifications. The building looked nothing like the crystal palaces and floating gardens of typical Etherian architecture. It was solid, practical, and designed for hard work. 50 young Etherians stood at attention in the main training hall. They came from every level of society, from noble families to working-class colonies. What they had in common was the determination to learn what Marcus Chen could teach them. Princess Lyreley stood among them, wearing the same simple training uniform as everyone else. She had insisted on no special treatment, and Marcus was holding her to that promise. Before we begin, Marcus said, addressing the class, I want you to understand what you're volunteering for. Human military training is not gentle. It will push you beyond what you think you can endure. Some of you will be injured. All of you will be changed. He walked among the students, looking each one in the eye. But if you complete this training, you will understand something your people have forgotten. You will know what it means to put others before yourself. You will be ready to burn bright so the rest can see the stars. From her observation booth overlooking the training hall, Queen Seralith watched the beginning of her empire's transformation. She had finally learned that some things became more valuable when you set them free. Marcus Chen was no longer her possession. He was her empire's teacher, showing them how to rediscover the courage they had lost. Outside the training facility, construction crews worked on the first ships of a new class of warship. They combined Etherian technology with human tactical doctrine, designed not just to destroy enemies but to protect those who could not protect themselves. The transformation would take years, but it had begun. And at its center stood a human who had chosen to burn bright, again and again, so others could find their way to the stars.